Good morning, students. Yesterday we discussed the UDP socket programming term work, and we also started with applet program, but we could do it only up till text field creation, and today we will be continuing the same term work, and we shall complete the entire term work to give us the expected outcome. So what we are expecting here is we want the applet to accept the student's records. For example, it should give me the text fields wherein I will be able to enter the roll number of the student, name of the student, and marks scored by the students in 3 different subjects. And upon providing all these inputs, it should calculate the average and it should show the result. So that is what is the expected outcome over here. So it should show these details: name, and then marks scored in subject 1, marks scored in subject 2, marks scored in subject 3, and then it should give me the result in this text box. Okay, so this is what is the expected thing. Okay, so to do this, we need 2 classes over here. One is the label class. We need objects of those label classes because these are all the labels. And obviously we will require the text fields over here because the user needs to enter the data in this. Okay, so that yesterday I think we completed creating the text fields. I guess yes, we have created these text fields yesterday in yesterday's lecture. In the similar fashion, we have to create the labels also. To create the labels, we have to use the label class. So you can observe that here I have written label L1 equals to new label, and whatever labels that we want to provide here, these are the labels, right? So these text should be provided as a parameter. So those text fields T1, T2, T3, T4, T5 are for these particular text boxes. So this is T1, T2, T3, T4, T5. So we require one more T6 over here to print the result, right? And these are the labels. Okay, so this text field I have created over here, text field T6. I will just take it up here. No problem even if you have written there, but let me arrange all these text fields at one place and all these labels. Now just creating these objects will not give any output on the screen. So here let me clear all these remaining data and show you what will happen here. I will select all this and delete this. So right now what we have done is only this much. Correct? Now let's run this applet. You can see that we have got one applet window. Nothing is displayed on that. It is blank, right? So we need to add these components. We have just created these components. We need to add these components. To do that, we have to use the add method. Let's close this, and here using the constructor, I will be adding that. So before adding that, you can observe here I have written a statement set layout new grid layout. So what is the meaning of this? See, to arrange all our components in the required format, we can make use of this set layout function. And I am using the grid layout object here because I want it properly displayed. See, if you don't use that set layout function also, it will display the output. That is not a problem. But the problem is we will not get it in a proper format. How I want the output is, in the first column, see, this is one column, this is another column. You can just imagine that this is one, these are two columns, right? So in the first column, I want all the labels to be displayed. And in the second column, I want all the text fields to be displayed. And how many rows we can have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. That means we want a grid of 6 rows and 2 columns. I want this particular layout. So to do that, I have used this set layout function and I have provided the parameter 6, 2, meaning 6 rows and 2 columns. And once we have created this grid, now we can add those components over here. So add L1. So what does it mean? I want to add label 1 here. I want to add label 1 here. Next, what should we add? We should add the text field 1, that is T1, right? So this is my L1, L2, L3, L4, L5 and this is L6. And these are the text fields T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6. Correct? So first we should add the label and followed by that we should add the text field and then label 2, text field 2, that is T2, L3, T3, L4, T4. That means we want it to be arranged row wise in this fashion. So we need to pass those parameters accordingly. So I have passed L1 first and then T1 and then we are adding L2, T2, L3, T3. So you can observe the sequence. So by doing this, it will add all that. And now, let me comment this. Okay, only this much. Now let us run this code. I will make this as comment because I have already written this code. Let's not get confused with this. Fine. So what we have done so far, we created the objects of text field and also the labels, and we created the layout, that is the grid layout, and we are trying to add these components in that grid. So now let's run this. Execute this code. Yes, you can observe that we have got the applet which shows the labels and text fields. Which shows the labels and text fields. Correct? So here I will enter roll number 1 and then name and then subject 1 marks. Let me take it as 78, 77, 99, something like this, right? So how am I getting any result over here? I can enter something here. Is the average of these 3 marks is 888? No. So far what we have done is, we have just created the labels and the corresponding text fields. And we are able to add the text. We are able to insert the text in the text fields. But what should happen when I enter the marks code in subject 1, 2, 3, it should give me the average of these 3 marks. It should calculate and show the average in that field. We have not written any code for that, so how will it understand what I want? Isn't it? We should give the instruction to add those 3 numbers and divide the total by 3 and print it in that particular text field. Then only it will understand, right? So we need to provide the proper instructions there. Right now we have just created the structure. So after entering all this, what action should be taken? So that should be entered there. So this is done by the event handling. So here you can observe that I have already written this code. It says t5 dot add action listener. So this is t5 dot add action listener. What is this? Which is my t5 here? So on the board, if you observe, t5 is this particular field, text field, isn't it? So once I enter roll number, name, marks code in subject 1, subject 2, subject 3, what should happen? What action should be taken? So for that we are using add action listener. Whenever the user enters this, what action should be taken? So that action to be performed has to be written somewhere. So that we shall discuss. Now at this place we want something to be done. So we need to add action listener over here. So t5 dot add action listener. So this at this particular text field, what should happen? So that is written over here. We have a method that is action performed. Upon listening to the the request, what action to be performed? That should be written. So if we are using those action listeners, we should implement action listener interface. Right? So this action performed is a method. It's a method which is present in this action listener interface. We know that the methods which are declared in the interface should be implemented in the class that implement those interfaces. So we have discussed about interfaces, how interfaces work, right? So here we are trying to implement action listener interface. We want to use the methods which are declared in the action listener class. So which is the method? Action performed is a method that is declared in action listener class, and we need to override that in our class. So that is done here. Action performed and action event. So here we need to give the instruction saying that I want to add all those 3 numbers and divide the total by 3 and then print the result. So that is written over here. So you can observe here I have written class term work applet. So this is the name of my class. Since it is going to be an applet, we need to extend the applet class. So what does it mean? Applet is a superclass, right? So from this applet, I would like to inherit, from this applet, I would like to inherit the features. In what? In my class. So what is the name of my class? Term work applet. Right? So applet is a built-in class from which I would like to inherit the features in my class term work applet. So what should be done? We need to use the keyword extends whenever we want to inherit something from the existing class, right? That is the reason I have written it as class term work applet extends applet. After that, you can observe there is one more statement that I have written, implement action listener. Action listener is an interface. We know the difference between a class and an interface. Interface is obviously a class, but interfaces will have the methods which body will not be defined in the interfaces. For example, this action listener is a interface. So class action listener. Okay, so this is an interface now. And there is one method which we are going to implement in my class, that is action performed. Action performed is one method. So you can see that there won't be any body of this action performed method available in the action listener class. Whichever class that wants to inherit the features of this particular interface need to provide the definition for this particular method. So this we have discussed. Right. So what we want to do now, similar to this, we want to do this. Action listener is a class and we would like to inherit the features over here. That means this is my class which is going to get the features from this and this. See, this is a class and this is an interface. So whenever you want to inherit from a class, you need to use the keyword extends. And whenever you want to inherit the features from an interface, we have to extend it. So action listener is a implemented. Action listener is a interface. So we need to implement that. So we have used the keyword implement action listener. So once you do this, you have to write the method definition for action performed. So you can observe these lines of codes here. So this is required because when the user enters the data in this T5, that is T5 text field, what should happen? What action should be performed will be written over here. Okay, so this is a overridden method. Now I have written this double dot parse double T3 dot get text, all these in a single statement. You can just divide these into multiple statements if you are feeling it difficult. Now roll number, name, subject 1 marks, subject 2 marks, subject 3 marks, and this should be the result, that is the average. Alright. Now what is the motto here? What is the action to be performed whenever the user enters all this data and he has come to this point? We need to add this and this data entered in this. Suppose let's say the user has entered this data, roll number 1 and the name is XYZ, and let's say marks scored in 3 subjects is 70, 70, 70. So what action should be performed? These 3 things to be added. Correct. So whether these will be considered as integer, double or what? It is a text, right? So first we need to fetch the text from these text fields. See, only the user has entered, we are able to enter that. But to perform some action, here we need to add those things. We need to fetch that data which is there in the text field. So to do that, we need to use the getText method. For example, see, this is my text box 1, T1, T2, T3, T4, T5 and this is T6. Now we need to get the text from T3. So we need to write it as T3.getText. So this will give me what the user has entered in that particular text field. So that is T3.getText. And similarly we need to get the text from this. So that is T4.getText. This is T5.getText. Correct. See, we need to add those numbers. We do not want the data in terms of text. We want them to add and we need to find the average of that. Correct? So we need to convert that text into a number. So here I have taken a double type of number. So we need to parse that text into double. We need to convert that. So we use double dot parse double. So what this will do? Whatever data that we have got here, that is 70, is not considered as a number. It is a text. So by giving T3.getText, we are able to get 70, which is in the form of text. We need to convert this into double. So for that I have written double dot parse double. This will give me a number in the form of double type. So same thing you can do it here also. Why I have taken double here is you can even take integer. If you want, you can even write it as integer.parseInt in the bracket T3.getText. If you do that, you will get that 70 in terms of integer. The reason for taking it as double is we want to calculate the average. See, when we find the total of those 3 marks and divide it by 3, obviously we may get floating point numbers there, average. It need not be an integer, a whole number. For that sake, I have taken it as double. So double dot parse double and do this. So similarly, all this. So even this will become double dot parse double and the parameter will be this. That means I have got this 70 and this and this. Now we need to add these 3, right? So this plus this plus this. After adding these, we get the total. But here the requirement is we need to find the average. So to do that, we have to divide this total by 3. Okay, so this whole thing divided by 3. Am I right? So this will give me the average. So that is what is done here in a single statement. You can see double dot pass double T3 dot get text plus this plus this. So this whole thing is divided by 3 and we are storing the average so calculated in a variable result res, which is again of type double. Correct. So once we have got the average, we need to print it somewhere. Correct. Where we want to print that? We want to print it in the last text field. So here we have the label average or result, whatever you wish to give, you can give the label. And here we need to print. So get text is for fetching the data from the text field. Now we want to set something in this field. We want to assign something. What is that something we want to assign? The average, which is there in the result variable. So we have used set text. So where we want to set this text? In this text field T6. So this is our T6. Correct? So T6 dot set text. So what you want to print there? The result. If you want, you can print the message or you can directly print the result. Now let's run this applet and see whether we get the result. Okay, so I will enter roll number 1, name, let's say XYZ. When you run the code, give some meaningful numbers. 70, 70, I will give all 70s here, and you can see that the result is 70. The average of 70, 70, 70 is obviously 70. Let me change some values here. I'm running this applet and here let me give some other numbers 76, 59 and say 99. Okay, so this time you can see that the average is 78.0. Correct? So if you have provided the numbers, I mean the marks scored by the student in such a way that it gives you floating point number. For example, here I have given 55, 56 and 55, and you can observe that the result is 55.333. So where it is getting printed? It is getting printed here, that is in the T6 text field. So we have set the text. So this is how, this is one simple example wherein you can get the student records and you can calculate the average of that. See, for this, what all we have used is, first we created the text field objects and then we created the labels, and just creating only these is not sufficient. We need to do something, right? What action should be taken? So that is done by using the action listener interface. Our class implemented action listener interface and accordingly we wrote the action performed. We have overridden that action performed method from the action listener class, and here we have given what should be done. Right? So you can even use the init method here. I have used the constructor. Even if you use the init method, that also works. So this is the Thermocon applet. Okay, so try this and you can do some modifications to this. So try adding other components as well, not necessarily only the text fields and labels. You can explore what are the other components that we can add, and you can solve a different variety of problems, and how it processes and how the action is performed. All those action listener class also has lot of features. You can just explore them, and if you get any doubts, you can contact me, call me. I will clarify your doubts. So try this program and make the modifications to it as per your wish. Okay, this is all about the applet homework. Now we will move ahead with the next term work, that is based on exception handling. Let's discuss a term work that is based on exception handling. Have a look at this problem statement. It says, write a Java program which has a class called account that creates account with 500 rupees as minimum balance, and a deposit method to deposit amount, and a withdraw method to withdraw amount, and also you should throw an exception, that is less balance exception, if an account holder tries to withdraw money which makes the balance become less than 500 rupees. And then a class called less balance exception which returns the statement that says withdraw amount, whatever is the amount is not valid, or something like that, some message. Then a class which creates two accounts, both account deposits money and one account tries to withdraw more money, which generates a less balance exception, and take appropriate action for the same. So here we are trying to create the account class. See, as per this problem statement, we need to have a class called as account, and we have to take care that whenever any account is created by the customer, he has to have minimum 500 balance in his account. Okay, so you must have, you must be knowing that in different banks, this minimum balance amount that is fixed is different, right? So here we are considering that 500 should be the minimum balance. Okay, the moment the user creates any account in this bank, he should have 500 as the minimum balance. So it cannot go beyond, it cannot go less than 500. He can deposit any amount, but whenever he tries to withdraw, it should not come below 500. That means minimum 500 rupees balance has to be maintained in the account. If he tries to withdraw the money, that is taking the balance amount less than 500, it should create some exception. That means some error message, that is less balance exception. So is this less balance exception that is inbuilt? It is not. Okay, so this we have to create. This is the requirement. Correct? So we need to create this exception, and whenever the account holder tries to withdraw the money, and if it is the balance is going less than 500, then it should throw this less balance exception. That is what is the problem statement. See, we have seen some inbuilt exceptions that are provided by the system. For example, whenever the user wants to divide a number by 0, okay, so it throws some exception. What is that exception? Division by 0 exception, that is an arithmetic exception. So is it that we have written that exception? No, it is the system generated one, right? So system generated exceptions will be thrown whenever such errors occur. Here this is our problem statement. So as per this scenario, we have to generate one exception, that is less balance exception, if the balance goes less than 500 whenever the user tries to withdraw the money. Correct? So minimum balance should be 500. It cannot go less than 500 at any point of time. Are you getting my point? So there are some exceptions which are inbuilt, like a arithmetic exception or array index out of bounds exception. All those are system generated. Whenever your code tries to do something which will create some errors, such system generated exceptions will be thrown and you get to see those system generated error messages. In the same fashion, I want to create one exception, that is less balance exception. So it is not system generated. This is the one that we are creating. This is custom exception, the user defined exception. So we have talked about two things, user defined exceptions and system generated exceptions, right? So this is going to be the user defined exception, right? So as per this problem statement, we have to create a class account correct. So what is the statement here? A class called account that creates account with 500 rupees minimum balance. That means we require one variable So which is the variable? Balance. So this variable is required for maintaining that minimum balance, right? And then whenever any account is created, suppose you go to bank and you want to create your account. So the bank officials will ask you to deposit 500 rupees and then your account gets generated. That is the minimum balance to be kept in your account, right? So same thing you can apply it over here. So whenever the user creates account, that means we need to have a constructor here, because whenever I create any object of this account, let's say there are two account holders, I want to create two customers. So how will I do that? This is the name of the class, right? So this we have to write in the separate class, but here I am just showing you how we are going to do that. Account A1 equals to new account. So this is how we create the customers, right? This is one customer with account number A1. A1 is the object of account. Similarly, if I want one more account to be generated, let's say A2, account A2 equals to new account. So this is how we create the objects of this. We create the customers here. Correct? So when we do this, what is required? 500 rupees minimum balance it is must whenever any account is created. That means the moment we do this balance should be assigned with 500 rupees. So how this will happen? There are functions called as constructors. So you are very well aware of this. Constructors are special methods which will have the same name as that of the class. So name of the class is account and the constructor is also account. What should happen whenever this account, a customer creates any account, his balance should be 500 rupees. So that should be mentioned over here. Balance equals to 100. 500. Correct? What happens when the control goes to this particular statement? So this will call the constructor and A1 object's balance will be set to 500. So this will happen automatically. You are not going to call this method explicitly. That is the difference between a constructor and a method, right? A method has to be called explicitly using the object, but constructors will be called automatically. Correct? So whenever any account is created, that account's balance has to be 500. And similarly, when A2 is created, its balance is 500. That means you can imagine like this: A1 is one customer, A2 is another customer whose balance is set to 500, and this particular account's balance is also set to 500. Right? So we have written a constructor here. What is the next thing? Second statement, a deposit method to deposit amount. So whenever a customer wants to deposit money, we can call this method. That is, see, whenever we deposit something, there is nothing to be returned here, right? So I have taken the return type as void deposit. Void deposit. So what amount the user wants to deposit? Let me take the variable as amount here, and here we need to do something. What should happen? Suppose the user, this particular A1 user wants to deposit A1 dot deposit, let's say 1000 rupees. A1 customer wants to deposit 1000 rupees. Right? So deposit is a method, and we are calling this using the object A1. A1 dot deposit, how much? 1000. So what will happen? This 1000 rupees will go over here, and we are calling this deposit method with respect to A1. What should happen? A1's initial balance is 500, and he wants to deposit 1000 rupees. That means this previous balance should be added with 1000, right? So balance should be equals to this 500 plus the amount that he wants to deposit, that is 1000 here in this case. So what should happen? Balance equals to the previous balance, that is 500 in this case, plus let's say 1000 rupees. So where is this 1000 rupees copied into? In this amount variable. So this is balance equals to balance plus amount. That means 500 plus 1000 will happen. That means total will be 1500 for this particular example. This is about the deposit method. Next, a withdraw method to withdraw amount. So we need one more method, right? That is withdraw method. Withdraw method. So what amount he wants to withdraw? Either you can pass that as a parameter here, or you can accept that amount within this method. Both are okay. So here I am taking it as a parameter and it will return something. See, whenever you withdraw, you will get some amount, right? So that amount is the balance amount, all these in the form of double that I have taken, double type. So what should happen here? We need a withdraw method to withdraw the amount and also throws less balance exception if an account holder tries to withdraw money which makes the balance become less than 500 rupees. That means if you take this A1 only, his balance is 1500 now. Suppose the user wants to withdraw 1200. What will happen? 1500 minus 1200 will be 300. Are you getting? So this 300 is obviously less than 500. But as per the rule, as per the policy, minimum balance has to be maintained, right? So if such situation occur, it should throw one exception, that is less balance exception. Correct? It should throw the exception. So we have to create this less balance exception first. Correct? This less balance exception is a user defined exception. Right? So here I will show you how it can be written, because on the board I do not have space to write all this. I will explain this with this particular example. You can observe here I have created a class called as less balance exception. The name of the class is less balance exception. It extends exception. See, whenever we have to create any exception, that is user defined exception, it has to be extended, it has to be inherited from the super class, that is exception class, which is built in, right? So we are creating a class whose name I have given it as less balance exception as per the problem statement, and that extends exception, this is required whenever we have to create the custom exceptions. And then I have written a constructor. See, this, whenever this exception is thrown, something should be displayed there, right? Some meaningful message, so that the user will get to know what has happened. Why he is not allowed to withdraw 1200 in this case? Why it is not possible? Some meaningful user-friendly message should be displayed. So that I have written it as can't withdraw. So here I have taken a string also. You can write a parameterless constructor also. If you do not wish that thing to be printed, you can just use a parameterless constructor. You can just print a message can't withdraw. So this is the exception, correct? Now, if you go to this account class, so this is my account class. In my withdraw method, I have to write throws exception. What is the meaning of this throws exception? See, if a class is calling this, if any object is calling this withdraw method, the caller has to take care of any of such exceptions. It is the duty of the caller to take care of such things. What kind of things here? Less balance. So if the balance is going to be 300, in this example I am taking, not necessarily 300, can be anything. In this particular example, balance is 1500. If the user wants to withdraw 1200, the balance that will remain will be 300. This should not happen, right? So when this will happen? Whenever the user wants to withdraw, correct? So whoever calls this withdraw method should take care of such problems. So how to take care of the problem? Whenever there is a withdraw method call, that method call should be placed within try catch blocks. It should be placed within the try block and proper catch block has to be written. Right? So the meaning of throws here is, we are telling the caller of this withdraw method that this particular method can throw some exception. It is the duty of the caller to take care of that particular exception. So what I have written here is, if, see, after deducting balance minus amount, whatever is there, I have taken a variable temp. If that goes less than 500, then we are throwing the less balance exception. So here you can see that insufficient, some string I have written. So where this will go? This will go to the constructor. So in the less balance exception class, you can observe that in the constructor, it takes a parameter that is string str, right? So here it will go, which is that this one. Right? Otherwise, if it doesn't go less than 500, if he has sufficient balance left and even after withdrawing it will not go less than 500, then he should be allowed to withdraw. That means he should be, this temp variable's value will be assigned with balance and that amount will be returned. You can see that in this particular account example, I have created two objects, that is A1 and A2, right? Account A1, account A2, and then we are calling the deposit methods A1 dot deposit 1000, A2 dot deposit 2000. And you can observe that whenever we are withdrawing this, when we call this withdraw method, we are placing this within the try block, and in the catch block we are catching this less balance exception. I think it is clear to you now, because the caller of the withdraw function is this particular main method. So it is the responsibility of the main method to take care of that exception. So if a method is throwing an exception, it will tell that I will not handle this. If you want to use my methods, my statements which are there in the method, you need to take care. How